One of the reasons I was so high on the Dark Pictures House of Ashes is because the final scene really seemed to be hinting toward the anthology coming together for a game that connects all of the games that have been happening so far. Obviously, the upcoming Switchback VR is kind of going to do that, but I'm holding out hope for some kind of connective tissue that makes use of what's introduced in House of Ashes Sing. I suppose there's no reason to keep hitting around things, so let's just dig into why I think this is coming, and if the devil in me move that forward further. Of course, there will be full spoilers for every game through The Devil in Me, so feel free to save this to your watch later if you haven't finished the latest entry yet. Okay, so pretty much every entry in the DPA has had references to each other, with the most obvious probably being the fact that Rachel and Eric were seen in the town of Little Hope at the diner just before getting into a car accident that took Eric's leg. However, the biggest revelation, at least in my opinion, is say for the final scene of that game, where two agents are walking around talking about the survivors. One of them makes mention that the situation is like a Winterfold all over again. Eagle-eared viewers will know that Winterfold is one of the trademark names for the episodes coming for the Dark Pictures Season 2. We also know that because House of Ashes is the first game chronologically, the upcoming Winterfold game would have to be set before everything else, assuming no other game in Season 2 usurps it later. So that's all been more or less known up to this point. What I really want to look at is if The Devil in Me gives us any new details that might further this theory, and, well, it's kind of complicated. See, the actual story happening in The Devil in Me doesn't give us much to add to the meta narrative. No matter what you do, Dumet is going to go on killing people after the events of the game. The only difference is if he's doing it after killing all the playable characters, or if he's going to become some type of Jason Voorhees-like figure that comes back from death to continue hunting down victims at his murder castle. But none of that seemingly really matters for the potential larger story, though we do get a single kernel during the curator's final scene. Just before the curator pops by to wrap things up with some really bad film-based puns, we see something trying very hard to get into his house. Again, this is very small, but I think these segments are starting to ramp up in intensity, though I could be misremembering the past games, and something or someone is eventually going to confront the curator. My best guess about what that will be is that something happened at Winterfold and the curator was involved. He's now using these stories to figure out a way to fix things. This is why so many of the characters look like each other. Obviously, the cover art changes each time, but every other character in each game has a visual counterpart in most of the other games. Take Jamie from The Devil in Me, for instance. Previously, that same facial model was used as Fliss in Man of Medan and a minor character in House of Ashes. Similarly, Mark's facial model has played various minor characters in every DPA game thus far. The real reason behind this is probably that Supermassive finds actors they like and wants to use them again. But if the theory holds that Winterfold serves as some type of apex point for everything that's happened and will happen in the Dark Pictures Anthology, it makes sense, at least to me, for these characters to continue to cross over as the curator tries to right some old wrong. Finally, I've also seen a movie or band poster that's popped up on Reddit that appears to be from The Devil in Me. It's for something called Zombie State that's happening in the Winterfold Forest. So I'm wondering, could this be pointing to some type of experiments happening in Winterfold that will come into play later? Could these be zombies that have had their brains taken over and they're being brainwashed? There's all kinds of theories out there. At this stage, it's impossible to say exactly what's going to happen, but every new episode puts even more gasoline on that fire. Or at least I'm desperately doing myself with this wild speculation. So I guess if you have any thoughts about what you think is going to happen next, or if these stories are going to be connected in some weird way, go ahead and sign off in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think, and I'll see you all next time.